Hey guys, it's me again, Nikki, and you guys are watching TOYtally Awesome, where we play with and make TOYtally Awesome toys. So, today I'm going to show you how to make a Batman Lego squishy. It's so soft and so squishy. I love this toy. Super, super fun to make. So, let's get started. So I took a car sponge and I traced out the outline of Batman around the sponge, and now I'm just cutting off the excess. Take your time doing this. It takes a lot of time. I think it took about 2 hours in total just to round off all the edges, and I really think you should take your time. This is my first time doing a squishy, and it does sound a lot easier than it actually is, just because I think with different sponges there's different kinds of squishiness to them, and you just really need to take your time. But it was really fun to make, and I think it turned out great. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, and if you guys would like to make a Robin squishy with me. So here I'm just rounding off his helmet as much as I can. I noticed that it's easier with smaller scissors than with the larger ones. So take your time, don't rush. It's better to cut little by little than to overcut and then not have any. And I really wanted this to be one piece because I didn't want to glue pieces together. That way the squishiness would be really, really, really squishy. And it turned out awesome. The only glue that I used for this was in the cape part around his neck, but you don't really feel that when you squish it together, which I'll show you later. It was also really difficult to get in between the arms and round those off, and also in between the legs to keep that straight. Just a gentle reminder that I'd like to make sure that you guys are getting an adult to cut out the pieces of the sponge instead of doing it yourselves, because I don't want anyone to get hurt while doing this tutorial. So this is what it looks like with the rounded arms, and I am painting on my first layer of fabric paint in black. Just paint it all around the whole thing. Every nook and cranny, you want it to be black. This kind of takes a long time. Let's paint around Batman's arms. Let's get in between every part. Don't forget to paint the back part. You can do the first layer of the back part and then just keep flipping it over when you're adding the other layers. And I think you should really use gloves for this. I didn't have any gloves with me, which is why I'm using my hands, but try to be as careful as possible. It might be a lot easier to use a Ziploc bag and just rub in the paint, or use gloves, but I just didn't have any. So here's the second layer, and you can see that some of the pores of the sponge are kind of covered with paint, and the second layer turns out a lot smoother than when it had just the first layer of paint. So again, get into every nook and cranny with black fabric paint. This time I'm using tweezers because I didn't want to wet my hands anymore. Paint away to Batman's arms all over again. When you're doing the in-between parts of the arms and legs, don't lather on the paint too much, just because they'll stick together. The arms will stick to the body and the legs will stick together. So you want to be a little careful with that. Be a little more patient with how you're painting in between the layers so you can separate them, and then let them dry in between. That way you get even coats of paint all over your Batman Lego squishy figure. And once the second layer of paint is dry, you can see how this is dry here, you can add your third layer of paint. And this one you kind of want to lather on a little more thickly than what you did with the previous two coats, because this will keep it smooth and it will keep the smoother texture for the whole squishy, and it makes it easier to paint on, just because it's kind of flatter than what you would do if it were just 2 coats of paint, and then when you add the yellow details, they kind of absorb into it and then the black sees through it. So you want to make this as thick as you can and leave this to dry for about 12 hours. Mine took about 12 hours. I think it depends on the brand of paint that you're using, but in general, mine took about 12 hours. And I did get a little impatient, and I kind of used the hair dryer to cheat and to make it drier faster. And that didn't turn out too well because there were small bubbles. So, I mean, take your time. Please let this dry. It'll turn out much better than mine. Just painting on more coats. Lots and lots of paint. You want to do this also in a well-ventilated area because it stinks. So, once this is dry, I am adding the logo in black, which I shouldn't have done because it didn't turn out as clear as I wanted it to. I just wanted this to be kind of embossed with paint, so I thought it would make it easier to add the yellow part, but it really wasn't, so you don't have to do that part. So here I'm adding flesh tinted paint into the mouth and spreading that out with my dotting tool. Then I'm also using my dotting tool to paint the white parts of Batman's eyes. You can also come back with some black paint and like trace out the outlines to make this better, but I think mine turned out kind of okay. I did cut out a nose part, so it does kind of have like the outline of the nose, and it's more of like a 3D nose, so that was easier. So try to make your paint as smooth as possible because when you paint in the details later, it'll make it a lot easier. Now I'm doing the belt with some yellow paint, and you kind of want to do this as thick as you can just because the black sees through it. And it'll dry just fine. You don't have to wait in between. You can just use like a thicker layer. It won't absorb into the sponge because there's already 3 layers of paint under it. And it was a lot easier to use a dotting tool than just a brush because it wouldn't smear out everything and I could get it as thick as it can. And here I'm doing the details, and this didn't turn out as nice as I wanted it to be with like the thick layer of yellow paint. So in the end, I just covered the whole thing and then decided that I would just paint in the details later with another piece of like a printed stencil. This logo actually turned out a lot larger than I wanted it to. I think if you make this and you can make it smaller, that would be so much better, so you can paint in the gray details of his abs, which I didn't get to do because the logo was huge. So here are the belt details with my dotting tool. Thick layer of paint, just dabbing this on. Dab, 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 dab. And I'm also going to cover the whole logo with just yellow, and then I'll paint over it later. So, here's a picture of what it looks like with the Batman logo and the mouth details. I wanted the look of him screaming, and of course he's missing his cape. So I'm taking a piece of black cloth from, I think, old pajama pants. They were really, really light. And I'm cutting out small triangles. And I'll lay this down, see if it fits, and I think it's fine. So, then I'm going to take some PVC glue. You can just use regular school glue, Elmer's glue, whatever you guys want to call it. And I'm taking a skewer around that, placing Batman back in, squishing it into his neck, and smoothing out the glue. The glue is fine to dry on the back of his neck. It'll actually make it a little squishier. So here's what it looks like when it's done. This is really fun. It's so soft and squishy. I hope you guys had a great time. I really enjoyed making this for you. Please write down in the comments down below if there's anything else you'd like me to make, and I'd gladly do it for you. So, I hope you guys had fun. Don't forget to click subscribe and give me a huge thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Ciao!